eco-spirituality. This is really important to me. My MBA is actually in sustainable business, so that's my emphasis. So it's really important to me to be able to spread that word and to be able to take the overlaps of that and apply them together, and that is what the result of this project is. So my research question: how can I best utilize my accumulated knowledge and training in sustainable business and yoga studies to promote healthy changes in lifestyle and consumer choices that ease the burden on the earth that will have a lasting impression on people? So my thesis answer to that was, my goal is to create a Yoga Alliance approved 200-hour multidisciplinary yoga teacher training program that emphasizes a connection to nature and the natural world to promote eco-spiritualism in students as they discover their own true nature and impact of their carbon footprint, resulting in students taking the initiative and responsibility to improve conditions of global warming as stewards of the earth and all of its inhabitants. So I'm not going to go through each of these, but you can see that there was a lot that went into this project. So combining the two disciplines required me to create a business. So the business end of this comes on one side, and then creating the yoga manual, the teacher training manual, was the second part to this. So developing the business. Manifest positivity. It's a must. So my preliminary research and my finances. So this is really important when you go into any business, that you have a handle on what it is that you're looking to do as a goal, and also looking at, where are the people that I'm going to be targeting? Where are the people, what are their feelings about this? So I look at my demographics. Who am I serving? Where are my target areas? The facility site that I have, are there anything that I need to know about that? Is it going to serve all of my purpose? The materials and props, do I need to rent them? Do I need to buy them? Do I already have them? Who will be teaching with me? I need to really know who these people are who are going to be spending that 200 hours with me and sharing that with the rest of my students. Is there room for my business to grow? This is a really important question when you start any business, is to make sure that you have room for that growth and that you're also independent of anything that you're starting so that you can continue to be sustained. And then how will the endeavor be financed? Of course, it always comes down to how much money do you have to start your project, right? So I've listed out some of the things that I have in my initial financial outlay. And some of these things are things that I have to pay. And some things down here, the guest teachers, those are things if I choose to do them. So they're not required. But the rest of these are required if I want to go through with my teacher training. And then you have to also determine what type of business structure that you want to be a part of. So initially, I wanted to be a benefit corporation. But when I took a look at what that entails, there's really no advantages for me to do that right now. There may be in the future, but right now, limited liability corporation is my best bet. I want that extra protection. I have other assets that I don't want to have included in my sole proprietorship or partnership. So this is the hardest part of any project, is really thinking about what is my vision, what is my goal, what is my mission. So my vision statement. EkaLokaYoga's vision is to provide yoga-based education with a focus on eco-spirituality that extends a positive impact on our world. My mission, how do I get there? EkaLokaYoga's mission is to lead students towards a movement of global environmental and social action through yoga-based education and sacred community. So here are some of the things that I think really differentiate what I'm trying to provide to my students. And so one of them that was important to me is the community aspect. You really need to be able to draw people together in order to really feel a connection. Right now, it just seems like wherever I go and I put my mat down and I start to talk to people, and then as soon as the teacher comes in, everybody's quiet, which is great, but then there's no connection during the class time. There's no connection after the class time. Everybody just kind of picks up their stuff and they go. And for me, I just feel like it's really important that you be able to make those connections with other people, and then you start looking at things maybe a little bit differently. So it was important for me to include a Save a project, which is something that we all come together to do. I was thinking about doing a rock labyrinth as a meditation item. I thought that that would be something that I could give to the community, which would be used over and over. Nature hikes, social action, all these things, movie nights, diversity and outreach, and I think that that's really important as well. So connecting with nature, how am I going to present this to my students? How am I going to engage them in making positive changes? And so the way that you do it is, instead of telling them, show them how, let them lead. Let them take some of these ideas and bring them to the surface, bring them to other people. Sharing those ideas is really important. So coming up with recipes, alternatives to chemicals, banning single-use items. It just takes one thing, just one change. And it's not made to be something that you go and do something radical. It's made to have soft items that are coming through that maybe casually happen upon you, and that's how real change happens. You can't throw everything at people and expect that they're going to have a big radical change. You have to give them time, and sharing these things is one way to do that. Okay, so, and this is pretty basic, business 101. When you create your name and your logo, this is your brand. This is what you want people to recognize you as, and these are some of the aspects of doing that. So my EkaLokaYoga just means One World Yoga. So, and then I also had to design my website, because when you're in a business, you need to have people finding you. So what I did is I created a business, I created my website, and then I put in there all the things that I felt were most needed or warranted at this time. I can also add things to this later, which is what I plan on doing after graduation. I can add in some of my other aspects of nutrition, but I'm not going to include them right now because I'm not ready for people to do that yet. When I'm ready to receive that, then I'll go ahead and put that in there. I also have an online application for the yoga teacher training, which is pretty extensive. I want to get to know people to make sure that this is a good fit for them and that they're going to be able to really have that time and access the things that they need from me. Okay, again, this is more business information about setting your rates and your standards. You really do need to have standards. You really do need to know what your rates are. You need to look competitively. You need to look at where are you at, who are you serving, what is your demographic, and it all comes back to that again. So for me, it was important that all of my guest teachers have a certain amount of experience before they come in and teach. And I also designed this to be above the Yoga Alliance standards. Some of the things that I also look to, and nobody likes to talk about this, but it's important. Again, with liability, there's, we live in California. So you need to have something to back you up. And you also have your assumption of risk for both the student and the public. So if you decide that you want to open up any of this to the public, make sure that you have those types of contracts in place. Okay? And then your contracts, of course, are going to be with your teacher-student and with the contractors that are coming in, your guest speakers as well. Marketing 101. These are all of the items that I designed for me to put out my marketing. And it's really important that you put yourself in places, again, where people can find you and see you. So I have Facebook, get testimonials if you have students that really enjoy your classes, get them to talk about you. And also make sure that you always include your logo and always include where they can find you on the web. Creating the manual, the fun part. Okay, so I decided that I wanted to be part of the Yoga Alliance for a couple of reasons, but the biggest reason is because a lot of people don't know me, and so I want people to be able to find me. And the way that they find me is through this registry. So that was the biggest key point for me. All the other aspects of it is a little bit expensive to do this, and it is a long, lengthy process, but I felt that it was worth it for me to be able to be found by others. Okay, so defining the criteria and the topics. Again, these are the Yoga Alliance guidelines here, and these are the other aspects that I've included. So that would be your community statement project. I like to make mala beads. I also like to use mandalas as a way to satisfy some emotional release. I also have 2-hour master classes that I offer first thing in the morning, so crack it on. Everybody comes in, we do our practice for 2 hours. It includes asana, pranayama, meditation, bhavana, time for them to really be able to combine everything together. And not just one discipline, but other disciplines as well. So we have Kundalini, we'll have Iyengar, we'll have Yin classes. So all of these different aspects will be addressed so that they can get a good idea of the many layers of yoga. So selecting the books and curriculum, that was probably one of the hardest things as well, is putting it all together and making the manual so that it's not this big, right? We want to be able to provide enough information to new students because this is a 200-hour training. So this is really the springboard. This is where people get their information first and then they decide where they want to go from there. So I'm not trying to overwhelm them. And then, of course, I want to be able to have my teaching tools with me as well so that I can enhance what I'm doing in my program. And then this is just developing the teacher training and the syllabus. So I want to let people know exactly what they are going to be doing as they come into this teacher training, what that obligation means and what it means for me to be able to provide to them. The research, writing, insertion, and photo shoots. So photo shoots, they can be fun, they can be grueling, they can be all kinds of things, but they are definitely needed so that you can get your face out there and let people know who you are. The research and the writing and the insertion is really personal preference. It depends on what it is that you want to have your students explore with you in that process. Printing, copywriting, again, this goes back to some of the business items. Once you're done with all of that, you need to put it all together and get it copyrighted. It doesn't really cost that much, and you can do it yourself. You can find information online in order to do that. I highly recommend it. Yeah, any questions?
How do you construe the title EkaLokaYoga?
EkaLokaYoga, it means one world yoga, so I wanted something that kind of incorporated what the meaning of the global environment.
Could you construe it also as yoga in one place?
I'm sorry?
Could you construe it also as yoga in one place?
Sure. Sure. Many disciplines.
Tell us about the logo. It's beautiful.
Oh, thank you. So can we go back to the logo? So I have two designs on my logo, and typically you only want one that gets plastered onto everything, right? This one I want to use as my watermark because it's a beautiful representation of the bigger boulder. It's softer. It talks about the nature of where I'm going with my program. So I'm talking about rooting in with your practice, nurturing your soul, and then growing into community. That's really what it's about for me.
And who designed it?
So a friend of mine designed this for me. It started with a sketch that I had drawn. I sent him a picture of it and said, what do you think of this? And he said, sure, let me go ahead and do a couple things with it. So he designed it, sent it to me, and we made, oh gosh, several days of changes. But we finally got to the one that we really enjoyed, and I really liked it. And I said, okay, this is the one. And then I put it onto my paper, and then as it got smaller and smaller and smaller, you couldn't see it anymore. So I had to get my uncle, who's also a graphics designer, to make the logo so that it will pop out when I have it on stationery business cards. But this is what I'll have on my certificates. This is what I'll have as a watermark on anything that I have as far as correspondence.
You talked about having multidisciplinary classes within your training. Do you specifically, are you seeking teachers that were trained in the Iyengar lineage, or specifically went through a yin training, or is it more of a hybrid? And how would you approach that?
So for me personally, I actually have all of that background. So I'm able to actually do the entire training myself. But what I would prefer to do is to give my students another voice. Because after a while you're talking and then they stop listening. So you want them to be able to continue to engage. And so for me, I'm not afraid. I set aside the ego. Let somebody else come in that can do this just as well, if not better than myself. So yeah, so it's going to be more of a hybrid. If I have somebody that I have in mind, like I really like their energy, I want to bring it in, I want them to teach a Kundalini class, then they'll come in and teach a Kundalini class. So I just got to make sure I put it in my budget. Cool.
One more question.
Yes.
Actually, I have two, if it's okay with you. The first question, with respects to some of the additional things like the SIVA, volunteer work, things like that, will Yoga Alliance accept those as part of your 200 hours?
Yes, they do. They give you a certain amount of time. I believe it's 15 hours of an emphasis that you're allowed to use. Plus, there's other areas you can incorporate some of those other aspects. So if you want to do the chakra series, you would do that as part of another part of their scheduling. So how you do it is you break it down into hours, and then you display the hours and say, this is what I would like to do. But all of this can be covered under the Yoga Alliance emphasis, yes.
Okay. Second question, marketing, what's your demographic you're aiming at?
Marketing?
Yeah, where are you aiming to market, other than with, general marketing like Facebook and stuff, but do you have a target?
I do, actually, and this actually was created, I started this process a year ago. And it was a conversation between me, I work at the YMCA, I love working for nonprofit organizations, it just makes me feel good. And so my director came to me and said, you know, we keep losing all of our instructors, and we need somebody, you know, to really come in and do a training. And I said, hey, you know, I can do the training because I'm qualified to do it. And she said, well, that would be wonderful. Let me let you have the space, and then you can go ahead and design it and present it. And I said, that sounds great. So right now, my market is the YMCA and then the surrounding community, so really in Conejo Valley. So starting off small and figure out where I want to go from there, and if it's something that another company wants me to come in and do. So I did also another training over here for aerial yoga. It's a 50-hour training. So I get a lot of those questions too, like can you come in and just teach the 50-hour, and then I can now have my own people trained, and they're not attached to me. I don't want my brand and my things to be part of that. I want people to explore that on their own, because I feel like yoga is really meant to be shared.
Thank you, April.
Thank you.